Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, well, so we have everybody on the line. So I think, are you ready to get started?
Yep.
Brilliant. So welcome everyone to this special Adweek Europe edition of the Startup Show. For those of you who haven't joined us before on the Startup Show, this is where we have great conversations with up-and-coming startups who are getting their businesses going, building, scaling, growing, and we talk with them and then other key players in the tech ecosystem. So today it is a brilliant pleasure and privilege to have with me Kate Tancred, co-founder, founder, and CEO of The Smalls, which is a crowdsourced video making platform, and she's going to tell us about that. And also Rose Lewis, who is founder of Collider, and this is a wonderful accelerator that brings together brands and startups in the mad tech space, marketing and advertising space, to do great things. And the focus for today's Startup Show is on partnerships, the power of partnerships. So I'd love to kick off by asking you each to introduce yourselves and say a little bit more about who you are, what you do, and your mission. Kate, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Kate Tancred. I'm the co-founder of The Smalls. We are a video content marketplace. We have 13,000 filmmakers and production companies, and we connect them with brands and agencies looking to make video. Our clients, which we'll probably go into more detail, range from, client direct. So we work with people like Unilever, Nespresso, Burton Menswear, so part of Arcadia, all the way through to, agencies and then publishers as well.
Fantastic. And Rose, tell us about Collider.
So yes, hi, I'm Rose. I'm the co-founder of Collider. Collider, as Sarah said right at the beginning, is an accelerator for marketing and advertising tech startups. We call it Mad Tech. My mission is make London and the UK a real global centre of excellence when it comes to marketing and advertising tech startups, as pioneered by Sarah, who built our first multi-million-pound ad tech startup in Unruly. We invest very, very early, and we give our startups three things. Obviously, coaching and advice on how to accelerate them. Cash, but it's not very much, so that cash needs to be smart. So all of our investors are from the industry, advertising and marketing individuals that can really, really help them along their way. And the third and perhaps most important thing is we connect them with large brands and agencies that we believe will be the ultimate customers of this marketing and advertising technologies.
So both of you are in the business of connecting and making connections, which I think is absolutely critical. When you think about our ecosystem, it's more fragmented than ever before. There are more players than ever before. Being able to make those connections feels super powerful. Kate, can I just ask you about your 13,000 partnerships?
Yeah.
How do you connect at scale? How do you manage to create meaningful relationships, and how do you know that they're the right video makers for you and your brands?
Yeah, sure. So I know 13,000 sounds like a lot, which, we're very proud to have sort of built a community of that size. How we connect them with our clients. So we are, I guess, part tech, part people. So the way that we do it is we take a brief from our client, and we go out to our community with that brief. We do that using technology. They then pitch back. So the filmmakers will pitch in treatment format. So they're these beautiful documents that they put a lot of love and personality into. And we shortlist those treatments. So based on what we've discussed previously with the client. So for example, all the KPIs around the project, whether we think the brief, whether we think the idea is shareable, whether we think it suits the platform. So for example, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, you name it. And then we shortlist those treatments, present them back to the client, and then the client commissions the one they wish to go with. So as you can see, the sort of technology in order to push the brief out to our community that is segmented into their specialist skills. So whether they're documentary, comedy, music video, you name it. So we use technology sort of around that area. And then people to really assess the ideas and to liaise one-on-one with our clients.
And how many people are in your team now?
Yeah, well, we're growing really, really fast. So I think we were 3 people for the first half of last year, and we're now 12. So yeah, so it's good growth. I'm really pleased about it.
I'm 12. That's interesting. Rose, I'm going to come to you. Is this like some magic number? Because do you remember yesterday when we were on the panel? Rose and I were together on a panel at Adweek. We were talking about how brands and startups can collaborate with each other. It was a really interesting session. And what struck me was that 12 seemed to be this number that kept coming up. That some the founders that were there, they each had 12 employees. They'd seen great growth, and this seemed to be a seminal moment for them. How big tend to be the startups that you work with at Collider? And is there a size where you feel they're just big enough to be able to work effectively with brands, or can any size of startup work with brands?
Well, I think it's interesting. So like Kate, a lot of the startups we invest in very early on tend to have sort of 3 or 4 people. And once they're beginning to get some sort of traction, maybe they've raised their second round of funding, maybe £200,000 to £500,000, they can start recruiting salespeople, they start recruiting more tech people, and 12, as you say, seems to be a bit of a magic number before they then have to build a little bit more scale into their organization and bring in processes. And that pivotal moment where actually you can do quite a lot on 12 people, you can start proving that you can scale the business to then go on and raise perhaps a much, much larger funding round to really start driving and fueling that growth.
Yeah, very interesting.
I don't think size is important when it comes to interacting with brands. Brands feel more comfortable when there's a business there that they feel they can trust. So more people is better, but that doesn't mean to say that they couldn't be working with a startup that 100 people or just 7 people. So I don't think that's important.
Yeah, and Kate mentioned the smalls being part people, part tech. When you are looking and choosing which mad tech startups are going to become part of Collider, I know you get lots of applications from startups that want to join the program. To what extent do you look at the tech? To what extent do you look at the people? To what extent do you look at the idea? What's your process there for choosing those lucky startups?
So it's always, as I'm sure you know, I'd say, it's always about the people. But it's the combination of the people that always interests me, because the idea, lots of people can have ideas, so it's always about the execution of that. So that comes down to the people. Tech and leveraging technology in today's world is absolutely critical. But for me, the most important person is the hustler. So, if you can't sell the tech, it doesn't matter how good it is. So you need the hustler, as I call it. And so that for me is the best combination. You've got to have a hustler that's supported by great tech, obviously.
Yeah. Kate, are you the hustler? Or do you have other hustlers? Are you chief hustler?
Yeah, I'm chief hustler. I worked in advertising beforehand, but never in a sales role. I was always an account manager / director, and I loved it. I loved building relationships with my clients. I really enjoyed that role, and I came and started my business, and I looked around and there was no one else who was going to sell it for me. So I went out there and started to sell it, and there's no greater feeling than selling your own product. I love sometimes when the times were tough and money was tough, I'd go to a meeting and talk about my product and how great it was for an hour, and then I'd walk out there and think, hey, I'm all right, this is great. It would really lift my spirits. So I really started to love being the hustler, and it's definitely a role that I'll probably keep doing for a few years to come, for sure.
And I think the founders are so important when it comes to telling the story, and particularly in marketing and advertising, it's always about the story. And so a good hustler can tell the story of the technology and bring it to life. Technologists, the real geeky techs, are brilliant at building it, but they're not very good at able to, lift it up into a story.
Yeah, I definitely found that. Sorry, Sarah, to interrupt you. So I definitely found that when I went to my first accelerator course. I didn't know of Collider at the time. I really wish I did. I went to the Accelerator Academy, and that was actually where I met Gabby, who is actually one of the investors at Collider. But he told me, look, what you've got is great. It's really great. We were super early stage at that point. And he said, look, you're just selling it all wrong. just let's work on how you say it. And so we sat together and he worked out, just some touch points for me to communicate really clearly. And after that, it sort of really helped me to say the right things and to position it in the right way. And then people started buying it. I think I just needed a little bit of advice on the script and how to sort of narrow and position myself.
This is super interesting because I think the way that you sell into brands and agencies is quite specific and requires a certain type of story, as you say, Rose, that's told well, that's brought to life, and that meets the need of very busy people who have lots of partnership opportunities coming to them all the time. So they need to be thinking really carefully about how they spend their time as well as their money. You mentioned Gabby, Kate, and I know he's been really helpful in a mentoring role. When we think about partners and partnerships, we're thinking, yes, brands and startups. And I'd love to think more broadly about partnerships. And when you're thinking about putting together your team, having people that you can turn to outside the company for help. Rose, do you want to talk to us a little bit about that? Because I know that mentoring is something that you feel very passionately about. And in fact, you had exciting news yesterday.
We did, exactly. So Clyde has been going for 3 years now. We've got a bunch of investors that act as our mentors. The other part of our mentoring program is obviously the brands themselves. So our brands and agencies get very heavily involved in our startups journey. And we think that adds real value. All of our startups, so the oldest ones are only just 3 years old. And what we want to do now is take them to the next stage. So we're building out a mentor network that consists of leaders from the mad tech industry that have actually built and scale businesses. And we think that's going to be absolutely fundamental to helping our startups go from where they are today, 12 people, £1 million-ish in revenue, to really accelerate. Because ultimately my mission, as I said, is to build out some billion-dollar companies in this space.
Yeah, very good. Very cool.
So we're doing it in a way that means that actually it's the industry leaders, not putting too much time pressure on them, but people like, who was on our panel yesterday, Guy from Publicis, people like Sarah, but also people that have really built the businesses in this industry. I called him Guy.
So Guy, CEO Western Europe Publicis, was talking about Publicis and their relationship with startups and how they're planning to work with, I think, was it 90? Wow. Is that right? It was 90 startups. So really interesting and on a long-term strategic basis. I would love to get your sense, both of you actually, because you come at it from kind of different perspectives, of whether or not you think the way that brands are approaching working with startups is evolving. Have you seen any evolution in the way that those partnerships are working? Kate, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. I mean, definitely brands recognize the fact that they need to be more innovative, and they see, in my opinion, startups as definitely a springboard into that, to try and, I guess, test new things out. If they are someone like a Publicis on behalf of their clients, I think, to sort of road test new and amazing things that are out there in the market. I think it can be difficult out there as a startup to have your voice heard and to kind of break beyond, I'm a startup coming into a big agency, I'd love to work with some of your clients for a little bit of money kind of bucket, if you like. Yes. Which is a challenge I know we have felt, and sort of some of my friends have also felt who have their own businesses as well, that it's difficult to break beyond. I'm a little startup, please pay me 10K and below, is a challenge. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's definitely something that we have broken through with a few of our clients. It's come back to collaborating, building relationships, taking one step at a time, building that trust there, and proving your model. We've had that opportunity. OMD is one of my biggest clients, and we went in there.
Okay.
Yeah, we went in there as a tech solution. I pitched as a little technology company alongside a whole heap of others. We did our first project, and that we just sort of built on that really, and now we work at least 2 or 3 projects a month with them, which has been fantastic. And the brief size and the budget size.
I hope you're getting more than 10 grand now.
Oh yeah, it's great. Like we do beautiful projects. Like we're working on a project with them right now for Carlsberg for the Euros, which is a fantastic project. We work on them with Renault, we work on them with Dacia, we work on them with Heinz. So these briefs and the budgets and the opportunities have really, really grown, but that's only through building trust and sort of breaking that ceiling of I'm a startup, pay me a little bit of money to work with you.
And do you find, Rose, that your startups struggle to break through that barrier, or is Kate's story one that you feel is replicated frequently across the industry?
I think it is replicated. I think, but it takes time, and I'm sure Kate would say that. I don't know when you've got your first project with OMD, but it does take time to build trust. And of course, what startups don't have is time. They are under constant pressure to deliver the next thing, the next revenue line, and that really is where the conflicts most occur. Is corporates don't go fast, but startups want to go as fast as possible. That's where you can get the benefit. But I think both people need to understand the pace that each one goes at.
Yeah.
So this is interesting, pace. And there are lots of kind of preconceptions around startups being fast, and then corporates being slow. To what extent do you think that is true? Or is this just a myth that we need to bust? And following on from that, are there ever moments you think when partnering with each other can be harmful, and that maybe it isn't the right moment for a brand and a startup to be partnering together?
Yeah.
Who wants to?
You go for it,
Have
Rose.
you experienced that, Kate? Okay, all right. So I think corporates do go slow. They're on completely different planning cycles to most people. We work with Unilever. They're planning 2017 and 2018 now. They're not planning next week. That's not slow in their eyes, but it is slow in startup world. So I think that is, and of course, startups should be going fast because they do have to grow quickly to prove themselves. But of course, it does take longer than most people think. I do think there is a point where brands and specific startups aren't quite ready. Startups aren't always ready for a large organization, particularly when they haven't developed their tech quite well enough. So we've just had an experience with a brand and a startup, and actually neither one of them thought it through. And what's happened is that it's not a great result. So the chances of that startup being used in that brand again isn't right. It's a bit like when we talk to going to raise money. If you go to a Series A or a Series B investor too early, they'll just say, well, you're too early, and then never see you again. So I think it can be like that with brands as well.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I think for my experience, of course, big clients move slow, and that can be frustrating because you want the job and you come up with amazing creative ideas and you just want to do it now. But it can also work in your favor as well. I think the biggest thing that I have noticed being a small team is making sure that you just some watch outs. I mean, working with big clients has so many benefits. It's great for the real, it's great for the money, all those kinds of things. But I think making sure with collaboration, sometimes the downside is making sure that you're remunerated for the time that you put in. So a lot of times we were like, oh my God, this amazing client is calling me. I cannot believe it. And I was so excited that they were calling me, and we'd go in, have a coffee, have a chat, go in, have a coffee, have a chat, go in, have a coffee, have a chat. I'm like, where's the money? I'm not sure I just making sure that you remunerate yourself for your time, and that you know where to draw the line and say, okay, if I invest any more time or energy into this, I need to bill you for it. I mean, they don't work for free. They shouldn't expect us to work for free. And a lot of the time they really respect that, and they know, okay, the line is here. And because, I mean, advertising is wonderfully creative space, and we put a lot of love in. At the Smalls, we put a lot of love into the decks we create, the ideas we come up with, but all of that is coming at a cost to the business, so it's sort of just teaching the team where to draw the line on that and how much love to put in, which is great. And then I think I work in video, similar to Sarah. So at the moment, we are swamped with an overwhelming demand for video, and that has really ramped up even in the last 6 months. It's just overwhelming. reducing the amount of people that require that. And sometimes that has made big organizations move a lot faster because the demand is very great. And I found that to be quite interesting, actually, because conversations I was having 3 years ago when I felt the things going really slowly have really changed now, where they come and they say, all right, I've got 3 weeks. I need a video. I need a video for the Euros, or I need a video for this. And it feels like it's the industry sort of catching up to itself. It feels like there's a lot of buzz about video at the moment, which is amazing and great. It means that I'm in the right space and I'm really happy for that. And it also means that people are on the phone going, I need a video now. You know.
Rose, how do you work?
We talked a little bit yesterday.
We did, yes.
Go on, I was just going to say, we talked a little bit about timing yesterday, and how often the success of startups is around timing. You talked about making your market in video, and clearly, Kate, you've just absolutely hit at the right time. So go for it.
Rose, how do you work with your with the brands? So when you're managing their expectations, and when you want to make sure they appreciate the needs of the startup and not wasting time, what do they put in, and how difficult is it to make sure that they are contributing in ways that aren't just about money?
Yeah. So one of the reasons I first started talking to brands when I set up Collider is I think most startups don't spend enough time with their potential customers to ask them questions about their needs and understanding all of that stuff. And so I brought in brands at that point, and it was more of a benefit to our startups than a benefit to a brand. So I persuaded these brands to come and in effect mentor my startups. But actually what turned out is that timing again, suddenly startups became very hot, and a lot of brands wanted to work with startups. And through the work that we did with the brands and startups, we started highlighting the benefits the other way. And so that idea about accessing new technology, accessing innovation is obvious, but it was also the intangible, getting brands to be active almost in a mentoring role or an advisory role to the startups in their early days was a really, really powerful way for them to understand pace, agility, and what was new and exciting coming through. So it became a value exchange that I hadn't anticipated. When I
really
first did
nice.
it.
And how do they feel about failure?
Yeah,
because this is something we think a lot about in startup land. Lots of things don't work out, and you mentioned that sometimes if a startup works with the brands and it doesn't quite work out, there's just the one shot and then that's it. Is that still the case? Is there a more forgiving attitude towards failure, or is that not really changing?
Yeah. Well, I think what's interesting, and we talked a little bit about the right kind of brand to work with the startup. We've kind of learned through the hard way what works and what doesn't, and we've now got almost a sort of 3 or 4 things that a brand needs to do in order to be a brand partner on Collider, because otherwise you're just wasting each other's time. So if they haven't got senior buy-in, but they quite fancy doing it themselves, forget it. If they haven't got that fear of empowering the team, so it's all right getting the CEO to say, yeah, we want to work with startups, but you need to empower people who are actually going to do the deals to allow them to test and learn, rather than just say, okay, it was a one shot, it didn't work, so you're not doing that anymore. So and kind of having a framework for the people who are going to buy the product to understand how they work with the startup. So you start small, it might be a 5 or a 10 grand trial, but knowing what success looks like. So with you, Kate, it might be, okay, well, we'll do this one video, but if this works, it could turn into a 50,000, 100 and 150,000 pound deal, because we encourage the brands to go, okay, well, look, start small, but think big, because this could change your world. And if they won't buy into that, we know they're just going to waste each other's time. And, literally it's like, no, they didn't buy anything.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say, I was wondering how to phrase that in a different way.
I perhaps should have rephrased it. We don't sometimes invite brands back on our program, as this is a live show.
And I would love to get from you, just before we finish, if you had kind of one piece of advice for a startup looking to partner with a brand, what would your top tip be?
Yeah, so my top tip from my experience is, and apologies, it is a watch out. We've had a lot of lovely experiences, obviously, and built a lot of great relationships. But I think one thing to watch out is definitely discuss your payment terms up front and come up with a plan. I have some clients who have 90+ day payment terms, and I'm a startup. So we have never been left out in the cold, which is great. And I'm really proud to say that we've always gone on the phone and tried to work something out, and something has always been worked out. So my tip would be discuss your payment terms up front and know that everything is always negotiable. If they want you, they will find a way to resolve the issue.
This is huge. This is so helpful, Kate, because it's one of the biggest anxieties for founders when they're starting up is the payment terms. And the payment terms, working with big brands, working with agencies, those terms seem to be getting harsher all the time as a supplier. So your advice is, and your experience is, you can get on the call, you can have conversations, negotiate payment terms that are much better for startups who don't have that cash flow in place.
Yeah, exactly. You can definitely get on the phone and definitely negotiate with head of procurement or whoever it might be. But I would say for the relationship, if you wish to work with the client again, it's just better to be upfront. So at the Smalls, we require 50% upfront, 50% upon delivery. And the reason for that is it goes into our positioning of we are here to make the best quality video possible. And that includes giving 50% of the budget to the filmmaker as soon as they've been commissioned so that they can book kit, pay for a food stylist, all those kind of wonderful things that come as part and parcel of creating video. So we really require that 50% upfront. And as a startup, cash is king. So we can't front the clients 50% up front every time, so as soon as we get a brief that goes live, that's great. Our producers are very well briefed to say, all right, our terms are 50% upfront, 50% upon delivery. So we're strong with our terms. Of course, there has been times when we have had to negotiate, and we've had to get on the phone, and I would just say, please don't be afraid. I've done it so many times, and people are reasonable. And if they really want to work with a startup, they know that comes at a price, and that price is that we are often not have huge bank accounts, So definitely.
Awesome advice. Super helpful and practical. Thank you, Rose. Advice.
I think. My advice would be agree up front, the payment terms, absolutely, but also what success looks like. Really understand what they're going to get from it, because actually some people are just trying it to try some new technology. They're not necessarily looking for real metrics, but if you agree that up front, then you can go back and see what success looks like and then move it to the next stage. So for me, really, really defining what the brand wants to get from the trial. Right up.
Fantastic. Well, listen, that's it. We're out of time. Thank you,
Sarah.
Rose, Kate, this has been so awesome to chat to you like this. And I'm sure I'll see you both very soon. And take care.
Exactly.
Enjoy the rest of the week.
Sarah.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye. Bye. Thanks everyone for listening. Bye-bye.